everybody, this is Peter at 630 Bikes. I'm going to build this bike with the tools that are included, except I do need some snips or scissors or a knife to cut the straps and some of the packaging. And then to install the rack, the rear rack, we will need a 4mm Allen wrench, which are not included at this time. Here we go. Here's the bike, and we have the parts box, rear rack, and assembly booklets and other materials, including the tool pouch. Okay, let's go ahead and start by snipping some of these zip ties. There are a lot of them. I'm sure that I'll miss some, so we'll just get most of them. And I'll get the bike so it can kind of stand by itself, and then we'll go from there. Down there is the seat post attached to the chainstay. There's our front wheel. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the forks around. Please note that for packaging, the forks are turned backwards. Right here, they need to be turned 180 degrees. I would turn them, looking at it over top, I would turn them clockwise. Makes it a little bit easier. And then there's a piece of packaging here called the fork protector at the bottom. It looks like this, a black piece of plastic. This is just packaging. You can go ahead and discard it. And then just to get the handlebars out of the way, I like to go ahead and stick them in the head tube here, but we will adjust them and secure them later. Okay, the first step of this operation will be to go ahead and open the welcome materials box, which has the tools in it. Inside this box, you'll find some basic tools. This kit does include the 4mm. Some of the previous ones didn't. So you have a 4mm, 5mm, and 6mm Allen wrench, as well as a multi-tool. These are pretty, the multi-tool is pretty rudimentary. You can get you by if you don't have your own tools for now. However, if you do have a more standard set of tools, I would definitely recommend using that, or maybe getting a set later on and making any extra adjustments that you need. We also have the assembly guide and then some welcome materials. After we open up the toolbox, go ahead and open up box 3. This has parts in it. It's really important that we open this box before we do anything with assembling the bicycle, because there's a part in here called the quick release skewer that's used for installing the front wheel. A lot of people are unfamiliar with how a quick release works, but this is it right here. You need to pull this out of the parts box. This is the very first step. This is how we use this to attach the front wheel to the bicycle. To install the front wheel, you do not need to use any tools at all. Just use this quick release skewer. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get the wheel ready. So I'll pull the front fender off of it. There's another zip tie there. I'll set the front fender aside. There are two pieces of packaging on either side of the axle of the front wheel. Either black, gray, or white plastic you'll see here. Go ahead and pull those off and throw them away. Then on this side, there's this other piece of packaging here. It's on there very tightly. You may need to wedge it off with a screwdriver, or you can maybe use the multi-tool. It's on there pretty tightly. Now you'll notice that the axle in the front wheel is actually hollow. You can see through it, and on either end of the axle are two small areas about 1/8 of an inch wide that are threaded. This is the end of the axle, and the fork will actually rest on these very small areas here. It's only about 1/8 of an inch wide. Don't be concerned about that. That's exactly how it's supposed to look. We'll go ahead and take the quick release skewer. We're going to take the nut off. and one spring. Then we'll simply take the front wheel and slide that quick release skewer through the hollow axle all the way through, and you'll see the threads of the quick release skewer emerge on the other side. Install the conical spring with the narrow end of the cone in first, and then put the nut on a couple turns. Then we'll simply go ahead and actually, here's another important step. We need to separate the brakes, which also requires no tools and can be done in a couple of seconds. Just grab the noodle here and then the noodle tab, the noodle bracket right there, and just pull them apart and the brakes will separate. Okay, I'll pull this packaging off and we'll just slide the wheel right in. You just go ahead and rest the fork right onto the axle. At this point, I like to put the kickstand down because the bike will hold itself now. And then we will go ahead and install tighten the quick release skewer. I'm actually switching this because it doesn't matter which side the lever is on. However, traditionally it's customarily put on the right side because most people are right-handed. The original use for the quick release was to assist racers after they'd crashed to or gotten a flat to change the wheel out very quickly. It can usually be done in about 10 seconds. It's been adapted to recreational riding. It's a great feature. Okay, we'll do the pedals now. The pedals also require a little special note, and that is that there is a right pedal and a left pedal, and this is important because the right pedal has regular threads the way you're used to. You can just turn that pedal in clockwise, righty-tighty that you're used to. The left pedal, however, is reverse threaded. It has left-hand threads, so when you tighten it into the crank arm on the left side, the non-drive side, it will be lefty-tighty or counterclockwise. Let's go ahead and do the right one first, and then we'll do the left one. Here's the right one on the same side as the chain. Go ahead and hand tighten it as far as you can go. You may stop about halfway. Grab the multi-tool or your 15mm wrench and go ahead and tighten it on down. The pedal should be pretty tight when you finish. Okay, great. That's the right pedal, the easy one. And here's the left pedal. Remember, reverse threaded, so we're turning to the left instead of to the right like we're used to. Great. I'm going to take some packaging off now. All right, excellent. Let's put the seat post in now. Now you just learned about the quick release for the front wheel. You're going to learn about another quick release. This is the one that holds the seat post right here. Before we do anything with this seat post, let's go ahead and put the seat onto it. That way it will help prevent us from dropping the seat post into the seat tube. This is a very common problem. Sometimes customers will be, or even experienced mechanics will be working on a bicycle with a seat post that does not have a seat on it, and it will slip all the way into the frame. If it gets stuck in there, it can be kind of hard to get out. We do have a video on how to do it. It's basically turn the bike upside down, and you're going to have to hammer a little bit on the bottom bracket. It will come out eventually. It may take a very long time. You can also, if you need to, take it to a bike shop, but they'll do the exact same procedure. They'll just do it until the thing comes out. We're going to use the 13 or 14mm wrench to put the seat onto the seat post. They always change that one on me. I never know which one it is. With the multi-tool, just find the size that fits. When you're going to tighten the seat onto the seat post, you need to make sure that the seat post goes all the way down to that tab to where it stops, and then you can start tightening the nuts. When you tighten the nuts, make sure you tighten them evenly. Don't just tighten on one. Make sure you do them evenly, or one of them might strip because it doesn't have enough engagement with the threads. Here we go. We'll tighten this one a little bit. Then we'll go to this side. Tighten a little bit. The multi-tool will get you by, but this is a much easier operation with, you know, with a regular set of tools, or even a ratcheting set is really fantastic. That's what we'll typically use in a shop to put the bike together. So now we have the seat onto the seat post. There's no danger now of dropping the seat post into the seat tube. We'll go ahead and open the quick release lever. And typically in a bike shop, you'll see that they will grease the seat post. This is not absolutely a necessary step. You can do it if you like, or you can even do it at some other later point if you can find some grease, or if a neighbor has some grease. It just makes sure that later on, if the bike has been left out in the weather and it corrodes, the seat post could seize in here, but that will take usually several years, and that's in pretty bad weather. So I don't consider it a necessary step. Also, since these bikes are usually not ridden in a lot of bad weather. So what you do with the quick release is, with the lever in the open position, we're going to go ahead and tighten either the nut, or we can turn the lever around until it starts to get a little bit tight, and then we're going to swing the lever forward. The amount of tightness that you need is that it will not be impossible. It will be a firm feel, but definitely clicks into place and should leave an impression on your palm for a few seconds. Now, when you're using the quick release and you close it, it has to line up with the body of the seat post clamp. If it doesn't, you could break the seat post clamp by using too much torque. Okay, so a lot of times we'll see that the seat post clamp will be locked upward or downward, or even towards the back. The fact of the matter is that this thing, the cam in here, has a lot of torque in it, and can really break the bolt if it's not done properly, lined up with the body of the seat post clamp. Okay, let's go ahead and do the handlebars now. Please note, in some of the models, I believe we're discontinuing this because it's unnecessary, but there may be a small gray plug in the top of the stem. Go ahead and remove that, then you'll see the bolt. Sometimes it confuses folks that there's actually a bolt there. So just go ahead and take that gray plug off, and you'll see a 6mm bolt here. We're going to also go over to our parts box, and we have our last part that came with the bike, which is merely a cosmetic piece that covers up the top part of the headset. I'll show you what it looks like. It's a little silver ring. So in that box we had pedals, quick release skewer, and then the headset cover. So we'll go ahead and pull the stem back out, slip the headset cover over the stem, slide the stem back into the head tube, and you can slide that headset cover on down. I like to go ahead and stand over the wheel when I do this. You can adjust the stem height as high as you like, up to a point where there's a marking for the maximum height. Please do not ever set your stem higher than that higher mark. It's very dangerous. We have seen where folks have done that before, and they can snap. Everything has a physical tolerance, and that line indicates where that is for the stem. I wouldn't test it. It's something that has been tested by people and has not gone well. When you tighten down this 6mm stem bolt, you can go ahead and give it all the torque you got. This one should be very, very tight. A lot of bolts and screws on bicycles are they're made for lightness, and they're small. They can be stripped if you use too much torque and crank down too hard. But this 6mm here at the top of the stem, and then the 6mm handlebar clamping bolt can be given pretty much really everything you got. Even if you have a longer Allen wrench than the one we have here, you can use more torque. Now stand over the wheel and line up the stem so that it is right in alignment with the wheel. Just do your best. You have to eyeball it. It's always a little bit tricky. Sometimes one eye looks a little different than the other, or different people have different feelings about your alignment job. But when you sit on it, see if you like it or not, and if it feels like it needs to go to the left or right, you can adjust accordingly. Then we'll go ahead and adjust the handlebars themselves by loosening the handlebar clamp bolt, the 6mm. I loosened it about one turn there, and then we'll just swivel the handlebars upward, rotate them upward. After you ride and decide what you prefer, you can have the grips going upward or more downward. As a default, we set them parallel to the ground. That's a really nice way to start. That may be where you actually end up preferring them. However, like I said, they can be tilted up or down for your comfort. You also want to make sure that your cables are arranged nicely. You can look at how they look right here in this video, or you can also reference our website. But in general, cables on a bicycle, not always, but on this one and on most bicycles, the cables cross over from the right to the left and from the left to the right. That's so they have a nice, easy swoop for the operating of the cable. Okay, at this point, it's time to install the fenders in the rear rack. So I'm going to grab my 4mm Allen wrench, which is the smallest one we have. And the hardware is already installed on the bike, the screws that we need for the fenders. Please note, if there's any fender damage at all, please let us know. We'll send you a new fender right away, no questions asked. However, there are intentional indentations on the fender that are often confusing. Those are there for the operation of the bike to allow the brakes to move or for the chain to go by. On this bike, there's an indentation on the right-hand side for the chain. And there's also two identical symmetrical indentations on either side where the brakes come in. That allows for the brake movement. So don't be alarmed when you see those indentations. They're there on purpose. If we send you a new fender, the new fender will also have those indents. If you see anything else, scratches or whatever, which can happen in shipping, please let us know. We'll ship it right out. Also, please continue with assembly because, of course, you can ride a bike with a fender that's not in perfect condition. Please go out and enjoy the bike while you're waiting for a fender to arrive. We'll go ahead and remove the fender screws with the 4mm. With the rear fender, we'll be installing the rear rack at the same time. Okay, so I've removed the screws for the fender. Let's go ahead and remove the packaging from the rear rack because we will install the rear rack with the rear fender. We have two more screws up here underneath the seat, so go ahead and remove those as well. There we go, those come right out. Now, as with any installation of any product that requires multiple fasteners, you want to install all the screws or bolts. Just get them in place first before tightening down. That will allow you to make sure that all the holes line up nicely. So we'll just go ahead and put all 6 screws in first. When the fender goes in, the rear rack's arm and the fender stay are installed in the same threaded eyelet here. So they both use just one screw here. We put the stay on the outside of the rack arm. Again, just installing these so that they are in place but not tightened all the way. right on down. All right, front fender, remove the packaging. The front fender as well has an intentional indent. It's a little divot here in front of the fender tab. And we have the mounting bolt right here. There's only one washer. The head of the bolt has a wide flange on it, so you can go ahead and slip the fender in here. The mounting bracket will be, mounting tab will be behind the fork. Then slide the bolt back in, hang the tab on there, put on the washer and the nut. And we'll tighten those down. We'll need a screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, and a 10mm. We can get by with the tools in the box, but again, if you have a real screwdriver, it's easier. All right, remove the 2 screws at the bottom of the fork. And we tighten them down. Now, one final note on fender assembly. Of all the things on a bicycle, the fenders are what we do not consider them a precision part, in that there's a lot of ways to kind of adjust them to fit the needs of the bike, to clear the wheel or the brakes and all that. They're going to require some finessing or adjustment. I just want to show you, when I put this one in right here, it's leaning a little bit to the right direction, so it's getting close to the wheel here. This is how we do it in a shop. You just kind of give it a little tap like this. That'll move it over, or you can give it a little yank on the stay like that, just to get centered so that it has clearance. There's no harm in that. You're not going to break the fender. If you do feel uncomfortable about that, you can adjust like that. We'll send you a new one, but there's really no way you're going to damage the fender. Same thing over here. This one looks pretty centered, but it's okay to pull on the fender, bend it a little bit. The fenders just need to be adjusted so that they, clear the brakes and clear the tire. All right, now it's time to go ahead and adjust the brakes. After that, we'll inflate the tires, take it for a test ride, and then if needed, adjust the gears. For the brakes, we will need a 5mm Allen wrench and possibly a screwdriver. We'll see if we need it or not. Let's go ahead and hook up the front brakes again. So remember, we'll take that silver noodle, pull on it like this. It's a little tight actually. I can't quite get it. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this cable here. Give myself a little more room. With my 5mm, I'll loosen that pinch bolt. Now it's loose in here. You can just go ahead and slide that noodle right into the tab. Very easy. Easily done. We'll squeeze these together. I like to squeeze them all the way with one hand and then let it out just a little bit. You don't need a lot of clearance. You just need some clearance. You just need for the rim to go by without rubbing on the brakes. But the main thing that we're really looking for is that when we do have this adjusted, that it feels nice on the brake lever. This is a good little point on this one that just happened. I'm going to loosen this up a little bit because the cable slipped out of the brake lever. You'll notice on the body of the brake lever there's a slot in the front, and then there's a barrel adjuster and a lock ring. Those are also slotted. You can line all three of those slots up like this, pull back on the cable housing, the black tubing, and then slide that cable into the slot and then let it snap back into place, okay? So now we'll redo. It's really good that happened. You guys got to see that. That happens occasionally. By the way, this is a really great way to loosen the cable from the brake if you need to. You can just, again, pull the cable housing out this way, slide it through those slots, and when you pull back on the brake lever, it'll unhook like this. So now the cable's free. We also have a video specifically on this so you can get closer detail shots. If you like, that's on our assembly page. Okay, so we'll go ahead and tighten that back up again. See how we like the feel of it. There we go. I'm going to squeeze the lever. It's a little on the loose side. I'm going to take a little more slack out of the cable. Squeeze a few more times. That feels nice. Let's adjust the pads themselves. The pads should be flush and lined up with the rim. The most important thing is that they have a lot of contact with the rim and are in no danger of touching the tire. I like to just push the pad right up against the rim all the way and then tighten it down in position. Also, a lot of times on any bike, the brakes can squeal a little bit. If that is happening to you, the way to fix that is that instead of having the brakes exactly parallel, they should be what's called toed in. They should be a little bit pigeon-toed so that the front part of the brake contacts the rim before the rest of the brake pad. Okay, that's a nice adjustment there. Give it a few squeezes. Now let's go ahead and pick the front part of the bike up and spin the wheel. In this case, it's dragging. It's dragging on the right brake pad. Okay, so we need to center the brakes. It's very common. So what you do is on each brake arm is a small centering screw. You want to go ahead and tighten the centering screw of the pad that's touching. Again, find the pad that's touching and then turn the centering screw on that side inward. It sounds a little bit backwards, but that's how you do it. Then you want to give the brake a few more squeezes and then test it again. You can see it spins nicely now. It's centered. We'll do the same process on the back, on the rear brake. Adjust the pads, make sure they're lined up with the rim. Great. Nice. We'll see how the tension is. That one feels good right out of the box, so I'm going to leave it. It does need to be centered though. I can see it's dragging a little bit on the left pad when I spin the wheel. Yep, just a little bit. So since the left pad is touching the rim, I'm going to turn that centering screw inward. Give the pad a few squeezes, and then we'll test it again. You can see it's spinning freely now. Let's go ahead and adjust this shifter here, the Shimano Nexus 3-speed. This one is actually already perfectly adjusted as I would expect, which means that when we're in second gear here at the shifter, we can see there's a little yellow dot, and it's between the two yellow lines. Now, that's a good reference point, and at this point, putting it in second up here, if that dot is in between the lines, then it should also be in second gear on the hub as well. And so this one should be fine. If not, it's very easy to do, to adjust. You can just get a 10mm wrench, and you're going to loosen the little lock nut against the body of the shifter. And then you can adjust the barrel adjuster here, which has a knurled knob, either with your fingers or you can use a wrench if it's a little tight, to adjust that yellow dot into the center of those lines. Now the lines again are just a basic thumb rule. Generally that should work, but sometimes the proper adjustment is actually such that the dot is outside the lines. So the main thing is that you make sure that you make the gears work. If this part's not working, again, Shimano is arguably the finest component manufacturer in the world, or at least top 3. So if you're mad at that, talk to Shimano. I was just kidding. Talk to us and we'll fix it.